Hello and welcome. My name's Sissy and I'm Timothy's widow. So the other day I did a video about using creative expression as a grief healing therapy, and more specifically, writing a novel, but writing a novel by using that ChatGPT thing. So a little bit ago I sat down, gave ChatGPT a prompt, and I wanted to share with you what I come up with. So if you're ready, get yourself a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's see what ChatGPT gave us. Hello and welcome. My name's Sissy and I'm Timothy's widow. So today we're going to experiment just a little bit with ChatGPT. In my one video, I had said about using it to write a novel as a creative expression for grief healing. Then it dawned on me. I'm not sure I exactly know whether ChatGPT will do what I want it to do. So I thought, if you're interested, you could ride along with me for this little experiment in today's video. I've used ChatGPT to look up some names of some books for grief literature, and I've looked up a few musical things, but I haven't really used it a lot, so I'm not exactly sure what we're going to get, but we can give it a try. So I've got the screen up here, and it's ready for a new prompt or request or whatever they call it. So let's go in here and see what it tells us. Can you help me write a novel about a widow who is, what do we want to use for the prompt? Who is rediscovering and finds romance along the way. Yeah, let's see what it comes back and tells us. Whoa. Okay, we're gonna have to scroll back up, but let's let it. Okay, let's scroll back up here. Of course, I'd be happy to help you outline the plot for your novel. Here's a basic structure you can use as a starting point. The novel begins with the protagonist, Sarah, a widow in her late 30s, struggling to find purpose and joy in life after the passing of her husband. She's immersed in grief and daily routines, which have become a safety net. She works as a librarian, finding solace in books, but her friends and family worry about her emotional isolation. Okay, well, obviously Sarah's younger than I am, and she works in a library, but she does share my love of books. I can see where she's immersed in grief and daily routines. That would be kind of normal. There are a lot of grieving spouses who are able to get back into a daily routine, might not be our normal, and they will, I like to say, go hyper back at it. And it does become a safety net, in a way of speaking. Because you keep yourself busy with everything, and you just do during the day or whatever your work shift is. You don't really necessarily have a lot of time to dwell upon it or think about it. So I can see that kind of does make sense. Friends and family worry about her emotional isolation. That is a thing as well. I know for me, it's been a thing, and I know from the different online grief support sessions and groups that truly is a thing. You're afraid of getting out there. You're afraid of getting out there because you know at some point you're going to break down. So for a long time, you can be fighting not breaking down in public. You can break down in the grocery store. You can break down at the car mechanic. You can break down taking your kids to school. For me, shortly after my husband passed, I had gone to the grocery store one day, and they had just started playing Christmas carols. My husband hadn't been gone that long. They're playing Christmas carols. I had to turn around and leave the grocery store. I didn't finish grocery shopping because I forget which Christmas song it was, but it was one of his favorites, and I just couldn't do it. So, what does this crazy thing tell us next? It gives us an inciting incident, which is good. One day, while browsing a bookstore, Sarah comes across a journal from the 1800s filled with handwritten letters capturing the romance and struggles of a young woman from the past. This sounds like a movie from way back 1980s, 1970s. Remember, what was it called? Letters in the Desk or something like that? And was it the lady or was it the man found these letters in a desk? Oh, I'd have to research that. But anyhow, that sounds like a very familiar plot. Intrigued with the journal, Sarah starts reading it and becomes captivated by the story. The parallels between the past and her own life spark a desire to reconnect with her own passions and rediscover the world around her. So are we going to do some time travel in this novel? Rising action. As Sarah delves deeper into the journal, she uncovers the story of Eleanor, the woman from the past, who also faced loss and challenges. Eleanor's journey of self-discovery and eventual happiness inspires Sarah to step out of her comfort zone. She begins volunteering at a local community center and takes up painting, gradually rekindling her own passions and interests. Okay. So we're not sure exactly what losses or challenges Eleanor faced, but she's doing a journey of self-discovery, which is essentially what widows and widowers, or if you didn't get married, your significant other, your loved one, whatever terminology you want to use to describe that. We all go through a journey of self-discovery. And eventually, supposedly, we are supposed to find happiness as we navigate the grief journey and we move through our comfort zone. So, okay. So she begins volunteering. That is something that I have seen in a lot of grief literature, where if you are not sure how to deal with your grief and get back out into the real world, that is something that I have seen suggested on so many places. Gradually rekindling her own passions and interests. So part of the journey of self-discovery is rediscovering yourself, which right here, rekindling passions and interest. And she takes up painting. Now, I don't know whether Sarah ever painted before or if this is a new passion. But that is also something that a lot of grief literature recommends, is to look at things that you used to do or that you used to be interested in doing and you just never got the chance to because of life, and maybe you had kids, work, all of that. So this does kind of make sense as far as, I guess I would say, accuracy. Okay, so Sarah's journey is not without setbacks. She faces skepticism from her friends who worry that she's moving on too quickly, and she grapples with moments of doubt and guilt about finding happiness again. That's very interesting because family and friends worry about her emotional isolation. But then she's getting back out there, and where skepticism from her friends who worry she's moving on too quickly. That is also very common. How do I say this? You feel sometimes like you're in the middle, like you're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't. Some people will find another romance quicker than others. Some don't. But I have known 2 grieving spouses, because I don't want to give away too much details. We're going to respect privacy. I have known 2 grieving spouses who remarried. One very quickly, one I think about a year and a half maybe, and the other one less than a year. And I'm thinking if I remember correctly, both of these grieving spouses faced a little bit of, let's just say, pushback. We'll use pushback as a gentle term, because people thought that they were moving on too quickly. So for a lot of us, yeah, we do experience that. It's like people want to push you into being back to the normal person. And other people are like, oh, well, you should be grieving longer. But the thing and the truth about grief is that everybody's journey is going to be completely different. There are some grieving spouses out there where it takes a couple of years for them to really feel like they have navigated through it far enough and dealt with the grief journey well enough that they feel more like a normal person again. There are other people who, like we've said, in a matter of months, can be pushing more close to a normal person. So that actually is something that is true to life. She grapples with moments of doubt and guilt about finding happiness again. That is also true. That is very true. Because I know for a lot of us, we struggle when we have those happy moments. We struggle with that, especially if it's in the beginning, because I guess it's from guilt. Because we know we've lost our loved one, and we're smiling or we're laughing at something, and then it hits us that, oh no, we shouldn't be happy, we shouldn't be smiling. So that's accurate. A true reflection of the grief journey. Okay, so meanwhile, she meets Mark, a compassionate and empathetic man. I love the terms they're using here, okay? Because you read in a lot of grief literature about compassion and empathy. So boom, boom, right there are those 2 words. So Mark's compassionate and empathetic, but he carries his own baggage from the past. Well, don't we all? It doesn't matter whether we've lost a spouse or not. I think we all, as human beings, carry a lot of baggage from our past. It's just some of us carry more than others. Their connection is undeniable, but Sarah's fear of opening up again becomes a barrier to their potential romance. That would be true to life as well, because you could have definitely a lot of fear about moving on with your life. So this section here is very true to life. As Sarah's relationship with Mark deepens, she's confronted with a difficult choice. The discovery of a hidden chapter in the journal reveals that Eleanor had to make a similar decision in her own time. Okay, I was wondering when we were going to get back to Eleanor, because me as I love romance, okay, but I also love paranormal, and I like those time travel stories. What was that movie with Jane Seymour? Somewhere in Time, where he goes back to her at that big fancy hotel, motel, or hotel resort, whatever it was. I love stuff like that. I always did, even when I was young. Yeah, I started to read romance novels in grade school, late grade school, but yeah. My mother didn't know that, but yeah, I was reading romance novels like in 5th or 6th grade, probably. I had a friend whose older sister had the Harlequins that came in the monthly subscription, and how was that? You got like what, 2 or 3 every month, and she would bring them to school and share them, and yeah, so I did that. But you have to remember, when I was in elementary school, between 4th and 5th grade, during that summer, I was definitely reading a lot, and my ability to read had really grown. So it was like in 5th grade, they would take you to the library, and I was like, oh my God, if I have to read James and the Giant Peach one more time, but by that time, it was like the books there, they didn't have an interest to me. I was not reading at a child level anymore. And yeah, so that was the time period that I actually discovered Star Trek, the original series, Star Trek novels and sci-fi novels, and yeah, so by that time, I think when they had tested for those little school tests, I think I was reading like at an 11th grade level at the start of 5th grade. So yeah, but yeah. Okay, I digress telling you about my past. So Eleanor had to make a similar decision. This moment of truth forces Sarah to confront her fears and insecurities. With the memory of Eleanor as her guide, she finds the courage to open her heart to love once more. So, I'm looking at this one and I'm thinking ChatGPT has created Eleanor sort of as a mentor, counselor, grief support person, which is something that all grieving spouses are entitled to and should have. And sadly, I know a lot don't. They struggle with that. But okay, so that looks like ChatGPT has created Eleanor as the support person. So Sarah finds the courage to open her heart to love once more, maybe? Oh, well, okay. Sarah and Mark's relationship blossoms, but the journey doesn't end there. Together, they support each other as they continue to navigate the complexities of their past. Sarah realizes that while her grief will always be a part of her, it doesn't define her future. She publishes a book about Eleanor's story and her own journey. Okay, I could definitely like this Sarah person. She resonates with me. How the heck did ChatGPT do that? Okay, it's not like I've ever told ChatGPT. But yeah, Sarah resonates with me as a person. So she's inspiring others to find hope and love in the face of adversity. Wow. Okay, so this Sarah person, wow, she really resonates with me greatly. But this is true. This is true. We have to be able to get to a point where we open ourselves up and we find the courage to at least find hope and happiness. I'm not saying that every grieving spouse is going to want to find a new love or romance in their life. Obviously, this Sarah person is younger than me, so that's a wonderful thing. I know on the grief support groups there are very young ladies. Oh my gosh, and it breaks my heart. Very young ladies, very early into their married life. And they should have had so many more years ahead of them, and they didn't get to, and that breaks my heart. So again, if you're watching this video and you do have your spouse at the moment, please don't take the time for granted. Enjoy what you have at the moment, and work your best to make your moments happy. So the novel concludes with Sarah standing at her husband's favorite spot, looking out at the sunset. With a heart full of gratitude for her past and a newfound excitement for the future, she's finally found the balance between honoring her memories and embracing the present moment. The story ends on a note of hope, reminding readers that love has the power to heal and transform, even in the midst of loss. Feel free to adapt and expand upon this outline to create a rich and engaging novel about rediscovery, love, and the resilience of the human spirit. Okay, so so obviously, heart full of gratitude. That's something that I've seen in a lot of grief literature, where when they recommend that you journal or write in notebooks, that you're supposed to find something that you're grateful for. So that again is true to grief literature. Sarah has newfound excitement for the future. She's found a balance between honoring memories and embracing the present moment. That again is something that you'll see talked about in grief literature, where it's fine to honor the memories of your loved one. You're encouraged not to. You're encouraged not to just tuck them away and forget that they existed. Sadly, I have seen some of that discussed in the grief support groups, where people will come and they'll tell you, oh, you should remove the pictures from your house, or whatever you've set up as a way to honor the memory of your loved one. There are actually people that come into homes and they're like, oh, well, you shouldn't have that anymore, which is bullpucky. It's your home, and it was your loved one, and you're allowed to do whatever you do and whatever you want to do. But here's the balance that hopefully we can work through the grief journey and find. So here's the balance: honoring the memories and embracing the present moment. And the story ends on a note of hope, reminding readers that love has the power to heal and transform. And okay, love does have the power to heal and transform. Not a lot of us will necessarily find a new love in our life, but that's where the self-care and self-compassion comes in, that you need to love yourself. There's not enough conflict in there for me. Obviously, I didn't feed it the extra prompts for my dream, because I got to figure out how to do that. But that for me, looking at it from a reader and also from a writer, that's like, okay, that is conflict, but I would want something else in there to intermingle this in with. Like, what is Mark's baggage from the past? Oh, let's find out. Can you tell me what the baggage from the past is for Mark? Whoops. Okay, I gotta click this. Could be centered around a personal loss that left a deep emotional scar. Here's a possible backstory for Mark's character. In his early 40s, who has dedicated his life to working as a social worker, helping children in foster care find loving homes. Aww. So that's going to tell us in this particular novel that Mark's a good man at heart. He is deeply passionate about his work and finds fulfillment in making a positive impact on the lives of vulnerable children. Okay. Coming from someone who's read, I don't even know how many romance novels by this time in life, I'm thinking, ooh, that could make Mark seem a little bit too, what's the term I want? Too sugary, too sweet. Yeah, give him some rough edges. Yeah, he's like almost too perfect. However, his drive to help others stems from a personal tragedy. Oh no. Mark was engaged to his childhood sweetheart. They had plans to get married and start a family together. Okay, I have seen this plot in books before. I literally have. Very, you know, um, I would say for sure, probably in a lot of romance books that I read like back in high school, in the 80s. So I have definitely seen this plot used many, many times. Mark was devastated by the loss and struggled to come to terms with the idea that their future together was abruptly cut short. So again, that's kind of reminiscent of, like I was saying, about all these young ladies in the grief groups that I participate in. Yeah, like when you're that young, to have your dreams and future abruptly cut short. And I'm not saying that, my husband and I, we joked about being a little bit older, but I don't think either of us necessarily felt old. Um, I would say I feel a little bit older since he passed away, but um, we didn't necessarily, like, sometimes we would like see people like on TV or whatever, and it's like they're our age. We're like, what? But so we, both of us, I think, felt much younger than we actually physically are, or in his case were. Um, The grief and guilt Mark experienced over not being able to protect Emily haunt him, and he still carries a sense of responsibility for not being able to prevent the accident. Okay, so in some of the grief sessions that I've participated in more recently, grief and guilt have been topics on a lot of those, and it's very common. Um, for some more than others, depending on how the loss happened. He threw himself into his work as a way to channel his pain and honor her memory, but he also built emotional walls to protect himself from getting too close to anyone again. Okay, and I have definitely seen that particular plot line used many, many, many times. Um, but it's true. It's true. You do build up those emotional walls. Um, it's very true. And very true that he threw himself into his work as a way to channel his pain. That's also very true to life. So when Mark meets Sarah, his connection with her begins to challenge those walls. Oh, I have seen this plot point many times. Um, in fact, I have written about that particular plot point in fan fiction. How those walls get torn down. Just like Sarah, he's hesitant to open up and let someone new into his heart. And that would be very true to life, because you've had this person with you for however long a period of time you did, and then we lose them. And yeah, that's, and see, I'm looking at this now with a slightly different thought than I would have years ago when I was writing fan fiction or some of the unfinished romances that I have written. So I'm looking at this a little bit differently now. Okay, because I used to really enjoy writing about people who have these walls built up, and how tackling like what they're thinking in their mind, their internal thoughts, and how those walls get crumbled. And now I see myself in this. We've got those walls built up around us. They're our protective shield. Just like Star Trek, we've got our shields up. He's hesitant to open up and let someone new into his heart. Their shared experiences of loss and the process of healing make their bond even stronger. As they spend time together, they gradually learn to confide in each other, breaking down their emotional barriers and discovering that love and healing are possible. Okay, that's interesting, and okay, I get that, and I've seen that in real life, and I've seen that in fiction. Um, but to me, they say the backstory adds depth and complexity to Mark's character, making his journey of healing and opening up to love a central part of the novel's emotional arc. Okay, I see good potential for this in the emotional arc. It's leaving me, I guess it's leaving me a little bit empty as far as the conflict and additional plot points, because I I come from liking like the action type of world. I'm just gonna say it like that. I know I've read many romances where there's some type of spy element in it, or person's protecting. You've got this super uber cute security officer or whatever you want to call him, and he's protecting the lady, and you've got something similar to this going, but there's all kinds of action and intrigue and suspense going on around them. So this to me is very gentle, a very gentle plot, a very gentle read. But for me, it's like, oh my gosh, it would need a lot of additional would need a lot of additional points, I think, to hold my interest, as far as a novel. I know not everybody's like that, but yeah, for me, it seems like it could be worked into a real novel, but it would be a gentle novel, and like I said, it would be okay, but it's not my style of writing or my style of reading. But yeah, okay, so that's what ChatGPT has given us on this first session. Um, and I do see possibilities of expansion upon it. Um, I don't know. If somebody were to give me this one as an assignment, as it stands right now, I don't know that I would be like overly excited to work on it as a novel and do a lot of revising and editing to bring it to readability, um, or to actually put something like this out on the market. But I guess it just depends. Everybody reads different types of novels and stories. My mother likes the more towards the historical fiction, and she's given me a lot of her books. She also had a lot that were like the historical fiction, but you had the Native American in there somehow, which they're very wonderful novels, but I just grew up with a more, how shall we say, they don't have to be they don't have to be a triple X, I guess, but there's a little bit of a rated, way above rated PG. But that's just the style of what I like to read. I know not everybody likes that though. Um, but yeah. Well, okay, so that's what ChatGPT gave us on the first session. I don't know whether I don't I don't know whether I'm going to actually sit and try to work with this more. I guess if you watch this video, let me know what you think. Should we try to continue to expand upon it? Um, I don't know. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Um, I mean, I think it has potential, but like I said, to meet the type of things that I like to get into, it would have to have a lot more substance and conflict, and things in there. Um, but yeah, Mark could be a very complex character. I definitely see that, um, especially being what happened to him, and um, his early experience. But okay, so yeah, okay, so I think ChatGPT did well with bringing out a lot of things that a widow, and obviously, you know, a lot of people wouldn't necessarily say that Mark was a widower, because if I read this right, they had plans to get married, but they didn't. So, and we don't know exactly, like, okay, they were childhood sweethearts, but we don't know when she passed away. So how long were they actually together? Like, did they want to get married before? Obviously, he would have gone to college, social worker. So he would at least have a bachelor's degree, possibly more education. I'm not sure. So how long were him and Emily together? I mean, and I feel sad in his late 20s, but they don't say exactly, like, were they still going to get married in their late 20s? I don't know. Like I see potential for it, but some of it, like I said, some of it is very old tried and used plot points, but they could always be switched up to make it a little bit more intriguing and enticing to the reader. But yeah, okay, so that's what we've got. That's what we've got on our first episode for this. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether I would want. I'll have to think about it. I don't know whether this is one that I would actually want to work with or not. I'm just not really sure on that. I just don't know. My mind is thinking, but this is good. This is good because it's for me. For me, I'm looking at it as somebody who had a passion and old hobby, you could say, of writing and getting into fiction and obviously romance. So this is good because it's sparking a desire somewhat in my mind for the writing process. Not a big spark. I've had other things that have come to me and I'm like, oh yeah, I would want to write about that and fan fiction. I've had a few things that I want to write about, started the documents, and they're sitting on the hard drive because I lost my passion for this type of thing. But yeah, that's what we've got. So I'm going to wrap it up before it gets too much, before it turns into a much longer video. And I'm not going to edit it because I'm just doing the recording. And again, doing a screen recorder like this, I don't have a lot of experience in editing. So yeah, we're just going to leave it go as is because I don't have those editing skills. So yeah, just let me know down in the comments what you think. And we'll just go from there. So I've been Sissy, and I want to thank you so much for joining me for this slightly different video. I am wishing you much hope, light, and love. Until the next time, my friend. I want to thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I'm really interested in your reactions. What do you think? Please let me know in the comments section if you have any ideas or prompts as to where we should experiment and try to take this story. Perhaps we could use it as a form of group grief creative healing. I'd like to see if we can get ChatGPT to weave a good work of fiction that explores the beginnings of new romance and rediscovering life, as well as continued healing after the loss of a loved one. So please go ahead and like the video, and also consider subscribing to the channel so that you'll know when new content is available. As always, please feel free to comment on any of my videos. I would love to hear from you, especially on this project. I'd love to see your reactions and your thoughts. If you can, I'd love to see your participation in the polls that I've created. They can be found on my community tab. I welcome seeing your responses so that we can talk about them in future videos. Again, thanks so much for joining. I've been Sissy, and I'm wishing you much hope, light, and love. Until the next time, my friend.